One-on-One became the 100th listed company on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. But how well do you know them? How well do you know their founder and the waves they've been making in the edtech industry? One-on-One has now been listed for almost a year on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. And so we thought it would be a good idea to have a one-on-one with One-on-One, starting with their founder and CEO, Ricardo Allen. And later on, we're going to be speaking with other members of the team as we try to get a more in-depth look at the company and the work that they've been doing. So it's going to be a great series. If you have questions, be sure to leave them in the comments below of this video, and look out for more updates as it relates to this series. And I think you'll have an appreciation for just how much more information you're able to learn about the company and what they've been working on. So Ricardo, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Jermaine. Very happy to be here. And hello, everybody. Very happy to see you.
Great. So you are actually approaching 1 year as a listed company. What has, how would you sum up the experience so far?
It's been a new experience living my life in quarters, but it's been something that I would say our board and, just about the core group of team have been preparing for. 1 year ago, I remember we're in July. Now is what, July? Late July, so we would have been a few days removed from announcing the listing, and so it is crazy that 1 year has passed so fast. But it has been an exciting journey. Obviously, we've kind of been, knee deep in building out our company and leveraging the money and the capital that we've had to invest specifically in some areas that we think will generate significant revenues for the company. So it's been a lot of that. Has also been a lot, Jermaine, of managing the company and performance, managing, how do you quarter to quarter ensure that you deliver growth and profitability while focusing on building out the things that are going to make sense for you medium term to long term. I mean, and I say that because not everything that you do for today is good for tomorrow. And so one of the things we try to focus most of our energies on are the things that will be good for us tomorrow. But at the same time, you have to ensure that you cover the things of today. So, very excited. It's been a year, and we're looking forward to continued growth and just moving the company forward.
Great. So I was going to ask you, I mean, so you kind of alluded to it before. So you pretty much have had to make a shift between, thinking of the company. I guess prior to listing, you're thinking about just, I guess, a strategic focus for the company. Now you have to, do things like report on each quarter. You maybe have persons zooming in on each quarter specifically. Like, how do you manage that shift in maybe priority as opposed to how it was before?
You know what? I think before, as an entrepreneur, you think about the things that you will do to make best sense for the company. And now is a struggle between doing that and ensuring that you report quarterly performance, good performance. Let me put it that way. And sometimes it's conflicting, to be quite honest with you, because there's some decisions that you can take that may not be, from an optics perspective, the best decision from shareholders. No, but if you look 6 months, 9 months down the line, you will see that. So that has been the difference. Another thing is that, Jermaine, I must tell you, how it works, right? When you have the end of the quarter, you have 45 days to report.
Yeah.
And so as a CEO, you see the numbers at the end of the quarter. So you leave that quarter now, and 45 days removed from the previous quarter, you'd have to understand is midway through the next quarter. And that's when you need to come and report on the previous quarter, right? And sometimes it almost becomes a distraction because you're wired to think ahead, right? Like as an entrepreneur, to think of the next thing and so on. And then you come, but you also have to ensure that you keep shareholders updated and in tune to what's going on and so on. So it's been interesting managing that balance. I wouldn't say I've perfected it, but I think I'm getting better at it. But it's something that I've had to learn and learn how to do it. Another thing that I'm kind of getting into is board. My board is fantastic, German. Those guys have led companies, some of the largest companies in Jamaica. You talk about Douglas Arena, who is our mentor. I mean, Grace Kennedy, look at what he's done. Mikey Bernard, those guys. And those guys have run companies and so on. So we learn from them, and it's been easier because of them. But, I can tell you it's been, a difference in kind of how we work and how we operate, and, kind of filtering things from a board level down to your team and getting things executed, keeping people informed. One of the things I do at one-on-one now is that, at every quarterly release, we have a team meeting where I keep people updated on what's going on with the company, so they're not learning externally what's going on. So it's been an interesting change and shift,
Yeah. So let me ask you this question right out, based on the fact that you're approaching your year, as we spoke about before. Has the core business or core priorities of one-on-one changed?
Yeah, and I wouldn't say it has changed. And even if it has, it's not significantly enough for me to say that, okay, there's been a change. I think we're still kind of focused on what we started the year on, right? Which is to build out our recurring revenue business, and move from a project-based kind of revenue generation to product-based revenue generation, so that we can move from, kind of like a few persons who are using and paying recurring revenues to mass adoption and so on. It's kind of like Colgate. You want a toothpaste, what do you think of? You think of Colgate, right? Some people use Sensodyne, something. You're not giving any kind of thing here. But the point I'm making is that, we want to be known as the company that provides personalized and individualized learning for companies, individuals, governments. And so we're very focused and locked in on building out those sources. Now, Jermaine, coming into the IPO, a lot of those revenue sources, as you saw, were hugely, I would say, project-based. And, we had a situation where our company earned recurring revenues, obviously from government, from businesses, we earn recurring revenues as well. And we've been kind of growing that, right? We've added a number of significant clients this year, in the individual space as well. That's something that we're looking to grow. We had plans coming into the year, if you looked at our prospectus, to launch out our individual line, right? And that was pushed back about 2 or 3 times because we really need to get it right. And in fact, the plan was to launch that in September at the IPO last year, and we pushed that back to January. It was pushed back to March, and then we decided, you know what, we're going to shelve this for the new financial year. And the reason is very simple, Jermaine. When you're building a product, you do what's called beta testing. You sit with people, you ensure it's right. You ensure you get the feedback, that sort of thing, so that it is right fit for the market, so that when it goes out there, it is doing exactly what it is to do. So the point is that, I don't think there's been a shift in priorities, but, what we've done is to be very meticulous in terms of how we get things done. And we're steadily kind of progressing so that we don't trip, we don't buck our toe. But at the same time, we're very focused in what we're doing. Now, one of the things I want persons to understand is kind of how does recurring business work, right? Now, if I sign 2 or 3 or 4 companies this year, and they pay on an annual contract monthly, and even if they pay me annually in advance, you get that money up front. Let's say I get $1 million up front, but you have to account for it in what's called an accrual basis, right? Meaning you have to divide that $1 million by 12, and you book revenues monthly from that 12. So you can't book $1 million. So even if I go and I sign 20 clients now for $10 million, and that's, what's that, $200 million, you have to book that revenue on a monthly basis. And so that's how recurring revenues work. So you may see gradual shifts in revenues, right? But it's very difficult to actually spot and see a recurring generating company adding big revenues. What you will see is just incremental movements in revenues, right? So I just wanted to give that context so that persons understand that point.
Yeah, understood. So in terms of the perspectives, well, let me not say perspective, the different product lines or markets that you're trying to reach through the, or that is stated that you're trying to reach through the prospectus. You mentioned one specific product that has been pushed back where are you in terms of those other timelines that you would have set? Because you would have pretty much set timelines for each of the different categories that you were working on. Is it that you've decided to kind of push those back until the market is ready or till the product is refined? Is that the case?
No, I say one product is pushed back, everything else is on track, and we've been kind of, it's really one academy, right? So one academy is our kind of big, I have a personal interest in getting that one right. It's to provide mass student individualized learning online. It's kind of getting back into the student market, the parent and student market. And so that's something that, we're focused on. So that's the only thing that has been pushed back, Jermaine.
Okay.
Government business, we've grown that. Last year we were probably ahead about 50% on that business. And, that's from, a few sources, right? So we're revving up, we announced, I believe last year, some partnership with the Community Systems Foundation out of Singapore, where we're taking over some of their businesses in the Caribbean. They're in about, I believe, 13 countries, and we're taking over some of those businesses. And we're bringing those forward, for education management at a high level, right? So that's one area. So that has grown. I was in Barbados about a few weeks ago, launching a jump program as well. So the point is that we're growing the government line. On the business side, we've also grown that, and then we're looking to add more products to that business side. I mean, for businesses, what we provide obviously is companies use our online learning platform to train their team. Companies also subscribe to our content marketplace that has over 20,000 courses that they can simply take from us and deploy to their team. These are online courses, as well as we build courses for these companies for a fee, right? And so those are the revenue sources that we have on the company side. And, we've kind of stuck to that, and we've kind of grown that. But that has grown not as fast as, on the government side, to be quite honest with you. Now, on the individual side, and that's one academy. The plan was for that now to be launched to add significant revenues to the business. And that has been pushed back to the new financial year. And we're expecting that revenues to come. And we have also shifted our strategy there as well, right? So our strategy was more or less to focus on individuals so that we can get the appeal there. Our strategy is shifting now to focus on the schools and to get the individuals through the schools, right? So, we've shifted the way that we plan to do it. The other business continues to do. I can tell you that a lot of the revenues you're seeing now to Germany is from recurring income for the company. Over the year, I can report that we have completed a number of projects that we were working on. And so you're going to see less project revenues going forward. We had a lot of that in COVID, post-COVID, a lot of project-based revenues, right? Meaning people reaching out to us to do projects and so on. But again, the strategy is that we cannot depend on projects to grow a business and have sustainable revenues, right? So what you do is that you grow your base, which are solid recurring customers who pay you every year, every month, and they have an affinity for your product, and you grow your business there. And then projects come, that's gravy, that's good revenues, right? But you grow your business and you grow your base. So that's what we've been kind of focused on, and that's what we're doing. And that was the strategy coming into the year as well, to really, grow our recurring revenues, move away from the projects, and focus on our core.
Okay, so we'll get to a couple of things later on in the conversation, because I know you've been working on something. We'll get to it. I wanted to ask you before we move forward about the classroom in a box, one of those items that you mentioned in your prospectus, or something that you're very passionate about. What's the status of that project?
No, let me tell you. So the classroom in a box, which is a little device, I probably have one behind me, is a little device that allows schools to have access to the internet without being connected. And this is the little device here. And we are more or less very much focus on getting this into the schools now. Before, we were looking at it as a single product. Now it's going to be a part of a complete solution. And so that has been a shift as well. Jeremy, let me just tell you and tell our shareholders and viewers really that what we've been focused on, coming into the year, we had a lot of things doing, right? A lot of products, that sort of thing. We focused on consolidating everything. So for example, the classroom in a box is no longer a product in and of itself, but it's a product that is a part of a solution that creates that product, right? And so that solution I'll tell you about later in the thing. But the point is that the classroom in a box, I can tell you that this is going to be rolled out in at least 100 schools for September. And
Okay.
we're looking to even go beyond that. And in fact, we have now established an agreement for Caribbean distribution of this device to schools all across the Caribbean as well. So I'm very excited about that. But it's not a single device. It's a part of a complete solution that will allow schools, students to access internet-based resources without necessarily being connected to the internet, right? So, it's kind of like a mile high strategy. So, last mile strategy kind of thing,
Okay, great. So I wanted us to kind of put into context just some of the performance of the company. So let's talk about the most recent quarter. You'd have released your Q3 results. What are some of the highlights that you saw? And I know you gave your report. I actually really appreciated the report that you gave there. But for those who might have missed it, can you just give us the highlights of said report?
No, for sure. So coming into the year, we made some plans, Jermaine, and I feel incredibly vested to ensure that shareholders are updated as to grade us kind of thing. We told you we were going to do this. What were the things we told you we were going to do and how we were performing? Good, bad, the ugly kind of thing, right? And so from a revenue standpoint, we are ahead of we have grown revenues. I wouldn't say we're ahead of the targets because our targets were to land us close to about $400 million in revenues, right? So we're not there. But we've grown the revenues. On the expenses side, that has grown beyond what we planned for several reasons, Jermaine. We've been kind of focused on building out a core product line, and we've invested most of the company's resources. You'll be seeing a news release coming out shortly on that. But from the IPO funds that we've raised, you have not seen us acquire any company. You have not seen us done anything like that. So what have we been doing with that money, right? We've invested a significant portion of that in a specific solution that we believe will add significant revenues, recurring revenues for the company going forward. So we had an increasing revenues in kind of planning for that, right? And we continue to see that coming here. So that went beyond what was budgeted, and we've had a reduction, as a result of that. Revenues going up, expenses going up as well. You're earning, but you're spending more. So profitability will remain either flat or decrease, right? So that has been our experience this year. For the quarter itself, I can tell you that, again, we had planned to launch the One Academy platform for this year. And that, if you look back at our prospectus, that was supposed to add some significant revenues to the company. I mean, I think it's somewhere between 70 and $100 million, if I'm not mistaken. But the point is that we did not launch that. And we did that. That was a specific decision that we took based on an opportunity that we saw to really focus on getting that right and to shift now to a school strategy, which we've been kind of doing, right? And you will hear more about that. But the third quarter was a quarter that, we saw, obviously, recurring revenues coming in, expenses being high. And, as I explained in my last quarterly report, the way the company is set up, most of our expenses that you're seeing now are going to remain, right? What you won't see is them growing. And so, as the company grow in revenue, so if tomorrow morning I book another $200-300 million in revenue at that same expense structure, based on us being kind of like a tech company, what you do, you spend up front, you invest in that technology, and then you sell. So your expenses doesn't move with your revenues as most other companies do. So we benefit from that. So the third quarter was a lot about that. I will tell you, Jermaine, one of the things you may not be seeing in the numbers as well is that, and we spoke about three things when we did our IPO. Three things. We said we were going to do three things using the money. We raised $358 million we got about, after you back out all the the IPO expenses
The
and
fees, yeah, yeah.
fees and so on, and we had a loan from Sagicor converting. We got in hand about $230 million, right? So I would say about 130 million or so went to loan conversion or expenses related to an IPO. And IPOs are very expensive, by the way, right? Anybody planning to do an IPO, keep those expenses down, right? But
Yeah.
yes, so we got about $200 million, 200 and a little. And so since then, what we said we were going to do with the money, Jeremy, three things. We said, one, we're going to expand our content development capacity for online learning. And we've done exactly that. We are invested fully in a fully functional, I would say, content development studio that will add significant revenues for the company going forward. What we're doing there, is truly remarkable.
The content development studio is for internal use, external use. So how will the studio work? How does that work?
It's built for the company to produce content rapidly for clients. So
Okay.
it is built to serve a much larger market quickly, right? And in fact, just to tell you that on the back of that, I've been to several countries, most countries I've ever been to in such a short time, over the past 9 months, pretty much shopping that content studio to extra regional countries so that they could outsource their content development, online learning content development to Jamaica, right? And those deals we're working on and those things are happening in the background, right? So we're building, but we're shopping it. And these trade missions that we go on, I mean, Jampro has been instrumental in this. We went to Miami, Atlanta, went to Toronto, Washington, New York. We've been several places, and then we're going to other places as well. So we said we would be expanding our content development capacity, and we're doing exactly that. We also said that we'll be making significant investments in AI. And this is something that we're working on as well. Now, what we found out is that the funds that we have raised from the IPO, Jermaine, the work that we want to do in AI can't be funded from that. So you have to prioritize, right? So while we've done some work there, I can tell you that we're looking at a strategy. And I did announce the last time I was on a program that I'll be making an announcement pretty soon. That will take a little longer, but we're still working on it. But we're actively looking to properly fund that AI strategy in a way that will, we will need at least $1 million to $2 million US per year to do exactly what we want to do. But we're still kind of focused on some part of it. So number 2 was AI.
How are you planning to raise those funds? Is that like equity raise, debt?
We're looking at several ways to do it. And I love the fact that you went directly to our plan to raise the funds. Jeremy, what if I plan to make revenues and use the revenues to fund it? Who knows, right? But
well, yeah, I mean, just the fact that you're juggling so many things, it would almost make sense to maybe raise to be able to accelerate that initiative, because in the AI space, speed is also important. Timeliness is important.
It is. You're absolutely right. And again, we're blessed to have Dr. Anderson here, who leads AI at the University of the West Indies, and he's been working on his team. So a lot of our resources, that expense you're seeing, Jermaine, and our books going up and those other things, I can tell you that we're spending money in research and development as well. And how accounts work is not all R&D efforts you can capitalize. Things that are sufficiently exploratory, you can't capitalize. It has to come to a point where you've demonstrated feasibility and so on. The point I'm making is that while we're working on AI now, we are very cautious in what we can do, not to expend too much resources too quickly. And as you suggested, we're looking to raise capital, and we've been having the discussions on funding a specific AI strategy outside of one-on-one directly. So just to give everybody an insight, we're gonna be kind of orphaning off a portion of one-on-one that focuses specifically on that. And Dr. Anderson will be leading that strategy directly. And so, instead of
What
one,
does what does that mean exactly? Orphaning off. What does that mean exactly?
trying to be cautious in what I say. What I'm basically saying is, one-on-one, the company, we want to be very focused in what we do. But we believe AI is the future, and we're going to be investing significantly in it. But we want to do it in a way that gives it its own focus, and not kind of tangled with everything else. So we're going to be separating that side of the business to focus specifically on AI and ensuring that that is properly kind of capitalized. And AI for me is one of the problems we're trying to solve is in using it to solve significant problems in education and training and coaching. And so those are kind of the things that and other ideas as well, by the way, Jermaine, because and that's exactly why we're doing it the way we're doing, not to necessarily focus on just one-on-one and problems that are immediately in front of us in education, but having a wider scope to look at that, because the applications that we're building and we're working on has other applications outside of learning. So for example,
so one of the questions that was submitted is, how do you view your ability to keep up really with how AI is being developed and utilized internationally, right? Do you see the company being able to keep up and stay, in step with what is happening internationally in terms of AI developments, application, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, so here are my views. AI, as we know it now, at its core are large language models, right? And all that is saying is effectively, it's a mathematical model where you give it an input, and by some statistical probabilities and so on, it gives you an appropriate output, and it appears intelligent, right? And what you do is that you train it, and you train it with some bias. By the way, all models are usually trained with some levels of bias. And why bias is important is because that's how you adjust the model and refine it to exactly what you want. Now, if it is trained in the US or the UK and not trained by us Jamaicans, what will happen is that we will end up back in a colonialistic state where we're using AI developed and trained by extra-regional countries. And so we have no choice but to train our own models, in my own opinion. Now, also, AI is as valuable as context, right? And context matters. So, for example, for a company using general AI or general models that are out there with general information, that's great. But I think it will be more powerful when companies themselves will be able to kind of customize this for their own purposes, so that their team members can get contextual information for their companies. And companies will not want that to be in general AI as well, right? Because that's private information. So I think to answer the question is that we're not competing with international companies. We're using the AI and the models that are built, customizing them for local context. When I say local, don't think Jamaica, but think an organization, a company, a use case, and so on. And that will always be necessary. That won't change.
Okay. All right. So we started to speak about this before. So you mentioned One Academy and said that we're gonna be able to talk about that a little bit more. Can you let us know, what's the plan for it? You mentioned just some little pieces. Can you bring everything together for us in terms of the strategy for One Academy?
For sure. Jermaine, even just to go back, the everything that we're doing is linked, right? And boy, I wish coming out of the IPO we could have run and just did everything and we got all the revenues and all of that and so on. But again, the things that we invested in 2013 is what's paying off now. And the things that we're investing in now is going to pay off tomorrow, right? I want you to trust me on that. So what we've done is that I spoke to you about the classroom in a box. I just spoke to you about AI. I also told you about a content studio. And together, we're making an announcement this week in terms of the level of investment that we've placed in it. It's significant, Jeremy. I cannot tell you how much money and resources we're putting into this. But what we're building is an ecosystem that will support the student, the teacher, and the school in one unified experience where persons can learn and acquire knowledge and pass their exam and do really great things, both in the school, both online and at home as well, right? So we're looking to build that out, and we're looking to launch that for September, that unified kind of system. Now, the problem that we're solving, as you saw reported in our what you may call it, our quarterly report, is an immediate one, and is one where, as you've seen, is a heavily reported thing where there's a teacher availability challenge that's happening, right? But that's one application. That's one way that we're solving it, by making this solution available in all the schools, especially the secondary schools. So coming September, you're going to see a significant number of secondary school. It has been overwhelmingly demanded by them, and we're going into installation mode now to get all of these schools set up for September. So, we're very excited about that, and that's going to, as I said, bring in significant revenues for the company going forward. But it leverages on everything I've been telling you about, Jeremy. The classroom in a box is in there. The AI component is in there as well to support the students and the teachers as well. The teachers will be very excited about a specific component that is in there. We have the content studio that supports it as well. Go ahead.
It sounds like you need to just let us know, are you, because I figure by the time this interview comes out, the release would have been out. Can you give us an understanding of what that solution is going to be? Because that sounds like that's the missing piece in terms of what.
I can tell you. So the teacher availability solution that we're building will place expert teachers in this central content studio that we've been building, and so we're getting the best teachers from all across the country, and we're putting them in these classrooms of the future that we've built. And what we're doing is to stream or to beam these teachers into the classrooms, aided by a facilitator on the ground. And effectively, we're offline in the content on the box so that the teachers can access without the need for internet, and they can deliver lessons to all the students. And this solution, we're hoping to put a teacher in every classroom. So whether a teacher is there or not, they can be supported. And even if a teacher is there, we have designed a solution that it be used by all the teachers to change the way that they teach and to facilitate learning, as opposed to being the center of the learning. So, you're probably used to a teacher writing on a whiteboard, Jeremy, and you writing in a notebook. But by us pushing the lesson into the classroom and beaming the lesson in, that teacher now becomes a facilitator and facilitate higher order thinking and discussion. So
I have so many questions.
Yeah,
I have so many questions. I would have loved to see maybe a demo or some application of it. I mean,
you want to see a demo of it?
That would be amazing, right? Because I think so. If I,
but yeah, I could probably show you. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, is that something that you could show us now, or is that something that you need to prepare? Because I have no problem maybe having another session where we go through it, but that does sound interesting. How are you going to be rolling that out, right? How many have you started to speak to schools already? Is there a contract in place?
It's significant, right? So we have schools that are already scheduled for installation. And those contracts are more or less in place to deliver the solution to these schools all across the country. And it's not just Jamaica, right? This is being demanded all across the Caribbean. So, but we're focused on Jamaica first, and to get that right, and then we can kind of move into the other spaces. The model is very interesting in that one-on-one is funding everything up front. For all the schools to come on board. So the schools aren't required to pay anything to start. But again, Jermaine, we earn a recurring income.
That's what I was gonna ask. So you're making the investment up front, and is there a projected break-even point? Are you able to state the amount of investment that you have made, or that is what we can expect from the release?
You can expect that from the release. I suspect when this comes out, it will probably go hand in hand. But
Yes.
We're investing $250 million in this, and we've procured everything. If you look at our balance sheet, you see a significant number of inventory, and that will grow. And we are placing this solution in every school. We're building the education infrastructure that will support delivery of learning across the board in all schools. That's the truth. That's the push out the bag. And that infrastructure will not only support helping with an immediate teacher availability problem, but it has far-reaching implication for other things as well. Because now, at an instant, we can deliver a robotics course to a school. Microsoft can deliver an AI course to a school remotely because the infrastructure is there. And many other applications of this obviously is there. I mean, you talk about language immersion and a few other things, right? So we're really excited about it, and it is something that we've been working on since 2019. There's a lot of implementation challenges that we encountered. Many of them, I can't go into now, but what I can tell you is that, the IPO really allowed us the capital and the space to invest in the right people, the right mind, and give us the capital to get it right. And what I will tell you is this, that, the Development Bank of Jamaica, they played a role. I mean, they gave us a grant to kind of start playing around with this a few years ago. And then, we also have our banks who are coming on board. Now, here's the kicker. Once this works well in this first 100 or so schools, Jermaine, we want to now get this into every classroom, right? And that's going to be at the very least a 30 million US. I'd say about a 5 billion Jamaican kind of investment to get it done. And then, the recurring revenues on that is quite significant, right?
Any ideas as to, so in terms of Juan, do you have any ideas to the rollout for the first 100 schools? Is it going to take a month? Is it going to take 2 months? And
go ahead.
And after that, let's say that the 100 goes well. Is it then going to be a phased rollout for the remaining schools? Can you say how many schools it is in total? And then at what point do you now start earning revenue, since you are making the upfront investment?
So we start earning revenues immediately. That's the truth. However, we've priced the model in a way that it's profitable for us. It's really a mathematical problem, right? We've invested the thing up front. It's kind of like you build an apartment and then you start leasing it, and you collect rent, and then you ensure that you fund the capital in such a way that when you get the rental income, that covers the cost of capital plus covers some sort of return for the company. So technically speaking, Jermaine, the model is hedged with, we've used financing to get the funding. We started out using the IPO funds. We're looking to replace that as we grow. In terms of rollout, the average school, once for these initial set of 100, this will be done for September. And then we're looking to grow beyond that. I mean, we've gotten orders beyond that. I must be honest with you, it's been overwhelming. We've seen opportunities that we didn't see before. We started out solving one problem, and then we're hearing other problems. So it's really interesting for us. But what we don't want to do is to run too fast and trip, right? And so, we're very, I would say, very careful about, moving too fast. And also the pilot schools who we worked with, we had 10 schools and we learned a lot from them. And they continue to help us and kind of give us the insight that we need, right? So I would say the phase for us is to probably take the first 25. Then we're going to kind of scale up gradually. And by September, we should have all those schools on board based on our projections.
Okay. So in terms of revenue, so you mentioned it's going to be recurring revenue. Is the agreement for revenue a signed contract? Is something that you have secured and it's a matter of now implementation that will now have the payments coming in? Is that the model?
Yeah, that's the model. That's definitely the model. So, we sign a contract. The contract is a long-term contract, and we lock up significant revenues for the company going forward. So, you know, we is a toll road. You know, the Chinese come, they build a toll road, you pay a toll to access it, right?
Yeah.
It's just that if you heard me speak publicly, I will tell people every day that we look at capital investment in this country in terms of physical infrastructure that you can see and, you know, it looks good and so on. But I believe that, you know, something that we don't look at enough is education as an infrastructural item that we need to invest in that will bring about the growth in the country going forward. The problem, however, Jeremy, is that historically it's difficult to align outcomes with investment in education in the short term, because education doesn't pay off until, let's say, 10, 15 years when you have a batch of people kind of going through that, right? And so one-on-one, what we're doing is investing in that infrastructure that will support just that. Obviously, we have to remain profitable, so we've priced that in. But our approach and what we're looking at is bigger than simple profits. We're looking at generating and building the infrastructure that will support the growth and development of this country, thereby enabling our people to grow not only themselves, to earn more, to live better lives, and that sort of thing. So we believe that if we can do that and earn a profit, we're winning at life.
Okay. So my final question about this, as I said, it does sound extremely interesting. I feel like we maybe need to arrange a demo or something. That would be great. Either you can send us a video or we can maybe do something live. I think persons would be interested in seeing how it works. And I'm sure you'll have promotional material as things roll out. But I think a video would be a good way to kind of see it in action.
Yeah.
My question to you though, at what point do you break even on this investment that you'd have made? You said it was 250 million. Is it going to be within the first year, within the first two? Because it is recurring revenue. So I imagine that if you have that large expenditure up front, it may be like somewhere maybe 12 to 18 month break even. Is that what you're looking at? Is it sooner than that? What can persons expect for you to get to, I guess, 250 million in revenues to break even on that investment?
So if I told you a year, would you believe me?
I mean, I figured you have that model worked out. It's whatever you say, because I think I asked you as well what number of schools as well you're looking at in total. You mentioned the first 100. How many schools are you expecting within the first year?
Yeah, so within the first year we're expecting 100, and for the second year we're expecting to grow that number. You know, I would say by an order of, you know, probably about, I don't know, 150 per year.
Okay.
But you know what I would say, Jermaine, we've priced a solution to ensure that the shareholders who have given us their money in our company to invest, they're going to get a significant return on it. I would say, you know, probably sooner than because I keep telling people that I need 5 years, I need 2 to 3 years to build out the company, and you know, I need 5 years. But I think something like this is going to be very helpful, and everybody benefits, right, Jermaine? We're using the capital we got from the shareholders. We're building out this solution. We're going to be paid to solve a big problem, and shareholders obviously benefit. And you know what, Jermaine? You know what I love about this? The shareholders of One-on-One are teachers. We have close to 1,000 teachers who are shareholders in this company, right? And so they're benefiting from the very thing that they helped us to build. So I'm very happy about that and excited about that. So to answer your question is that, you know, we've priced it so that we are positive in terms of, you know, we have a very good internal rate of return on this, and we have a positive NPV, net present value, as well as, you know, the payback period is very short based on how we price the solution. So, you know, by all indication, you know, we've hedged against. We've made it a very, you know, I want to use the word arbitrage, but you know, we've made it a very good deal for us.
Okay. So is there anything else that you want to say about it before we move on to another topic?
No, just that, you know, the thing is, you know, you pull out most out of me, and I don't think there's more to have. What I can say, Jermaine, is that I'm very excited about the problems that it will solve. This is something that, you know, I've always said to person, I want you to trust me as the CEO of the company to make decisions that are in the best interest of our shareholders. And I know sometimes we look at short term and say, well, boy, I was expecting the stock price to go here, and I was expecting this to happen or that to happen. And what I'm saying is that we have raised $358 million. We've invested that in a way that we believe is going to bring about recurring, sustained returns and revenues for the company, thereby impacting profitability for our shareholders. That you can have a company that is stable, that is giving you stable returns going forward, and a company you can depend on. Jeremy, we've signed long-term commitments on what we're doing here. It's not short-term. It's not a year. It's not two. You know what I mean? It's long-term that we can depend on. And what that will allow the company to do now is to work on the other things, that will kind of bring us, to that 1 billion revenue mark that I've targeted for 3 years down the road. So, again, we continue to work, and this is something we're very excited about, and look out for it in September. If you have children and you're watching, I'm very excited about them. Little Johnny now can, not miss a class, and his teachers love it. His teachers will be using it and so on. So, very excited about this as we move to September.
Okay, great. Looking forward to it, definitely. So let's kind of try to get in some of the community questions that were submitted.
Sure.
So these are very specific questions, so we might have answered it in part before. I'll ask it as it is, and then you can simply add anything new that would be there if it was something that was already answered, right? So this first question says, as per the prior report for the second quarter, you stated that management was set on issuing an announcement re-UNA for the third quarter. Can you advise of the delay of such an announcement?
Yeah, we so again, she's still on my screen here. So we're working. This was delayed. I did say it a little earlier. So we continue to work, Jermaine. However, we are working on a specific deal that is still in trade. And I'm looking to actually finalize that, I would say very soon. And the contract is on my table. It's a very significant contract for us to, there's a piece of patent in the United States that has been registered, 2 of them. And there's a company who we're working directly with to use those 2 patents in AI to build out, a model and to train a model that will be very significant for bringing what we have planned for UNA to life. The contract is more complicating than I initially expected. And the process for a public company to engage is also something that we've looked at as well. But it still remains a focus. What I can say too is that the return of this is not going to be for this year, right? Is something that I would say will require about 1 year. If you know anything about language models, it takes time to train. And so, but the good thing is that the people who we're working with and the company that we're working with is these guys are top notch, right? These guys would have built significant companies. One of them you know well, and they're teaming up with us to get this done. So we're very excited about that, but I can't speak on the specificity of it until we've signed the deal. But we're still working on it, and this is why sometimes I try not to make dates and announcement. But I know
it's all good. It's all good. So, and let me tell you why it's good, right? So I think there's nothing wrong with saying we've set a target, we've set a timeline, we have an expectation, and you've given us the explanation as to why you're not able to realize it in this quarter, and you've set a new expectation. I think that's how it should be done, because the alternative, which some companies do locally, is not say anything. So right. The shareholder knows nothing about what's to come. Right. And then we may see it as a footnote in the report. Like, I think it's important. You don't necessarily need to have unrealistic expectations or targets. Right. If from where you sit, there's reason to believe you can close it in a quarter, I think it's fair to say that we're expecting, all things being equal, we'll do this in a quarter, and so on, right? So it sounds interesting. I guess we will be able to hear about that before a year's time, right? So it sounds like the announcement will come sooner, but the realization of it would be a year from now, is what you're saying?
Yeah, so the announcement is going to come, pretty soon. And it will, for it to materialize, it's going to take time to get done. But what I can tell you is that we're looking to use what we're doing now to raise the capital required to really get it to what we need. It's
Okay.
and the capital that's required is quite significant. But our approach is to
Is that capital rolled into the AI investment that you mentioned, the $1 million or $2 million US?
yeah, it is rolled into that. But again, we and there's a lot of money going into AI now. We think we have an opportunity to have a piece of that. But we don't believe that we can raise that money within Jamaica. And so we're very strategic in how we're setting up this company so that we can raise the capital required to move it forward.
The way that you answered that just now, I'm wondering if what you're saying is that, does that sound like another subsidiary of One-on-One maybe overseas?
So One-on-One currently doesn't have any active subsidiary outside of a company that holds a significant asset that we have, right? But yeah, I mean, we're looking to create a subsidiary that focuses purely on this. I did say that earlier.
Yes, you know.
And we're very specific about the jurisdiction that we registered this subsidiary in, for the purposes of raising funds to make it possible. And
Okay.
and you know, Jermaine, I said this, that we have had the conversation. As I said, we need at least $1 million to $2 million US to do the groundwork required here. Keep in mind that the team that's going to push this is a Jamaican team, but for fundraising purposes, you want to do your first round kind of seed funding in a country like the US, and then you can raise rounds, you know, up rounds, a Series A, a Series B there, and you get significant capital and so on. So that's our strategy there.
Because that would likely complicate things for you locally, because your junior market, there's a cap there. You'd have to move to the main market. You miss the tax remission and all of those things.
All of those things, my brother.
Yeah.
And I'm not about to get in that. All of those.
Okay. All right, cool. So
whatever we do, Jermaine, is going to benefit One-on-One shareholders, right? We're not gonna be doing something that will not benefit our shareholders. It will benefit our shareholders ultimately, and whatever we come up with will benefit our shareholders ultimately.
Okay. Next question here. Person is asking, there has been a quarter-over-quarter decline in net profits. However, you mentioned new products are being introduced. Can you state when they would see those numbers really reflecting in the company's income statement? So you mentioned the new products, the teacher availability solution. You mentioned the status of One Academy. I think this person is asking, the shareholder is asking, you know, when can they see that the impact of those new products reflecting on the income statement?
Yeah, I think as early as September. You know, they're not going to see it in Q4 for this year. And when I speak about when you're going to see it, I'm talking about significant, right?
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a significant shift in our revenue profile come September. So I think Q1 you start to see signs of that. And yeah, I mean, you know, that's what I would say to that. Now, to answer the question about the decline, I want to answer that too, right? Yes, you would have seen a decline quarter over quarter. I believe we landed at 68 from core revenue, and then there was about 6.5 in other revenues. The other revenues, you know, accounting, but you know, that's funding that was a part of funding that we were using to kind of build out the solution. The model that, you know, I told you about, the grant funding and so on. But you know, suffice it is to say that we're moving away from projects, Jermaine. A lot of the revenues in the past were projects, right? And you know, while we try to manage this, you know, how we move, I would have liked to show that we would have still grown, right? For example, if One Academy was launched and, you know, let's say we're averaging $20 million a quarter on top of what we do now, we would have been at 88 million versus 68 and so on. But we did not launch One Academy, therefore you saw that blip, that reduction in revenue quarter over quarter. But we're getting out the project revenues. I'm not giving up project business. What I'm saying is that we're not focused on growing our company from project revenues. We're focused on growing our company from the core, and our focus, to be quite honest with you, Jermaine, has been focused on earning recurring revenue business, not so much project-based revenues,
Yeah.
because it does require a lot, and it's not the best way to grow a company, because you're significantly exposed if one of those projects were to fail or one of those projects don't renew. And so we're that's the thing. So I would say that that dip in revenue came from the fact that projects that we usually kind of take on and so on, we have not those have not materialized. We've not been focused on them. We've been focused on building this product that will bring recurring revenues to the company, and so that's why
Okay.
you saw the shift. And also, it was a removal of the project revenues without replacing it with recurring revenues quickly enough, right? So it was a
Yeah.
combination of
So
those things.
it sounded like pretty much the transition you've been making, because I completely understand, because we are, I mean, I'll share a personal thing here. Learn, Grow, Invest is pretty much trying to change our own business model, right? Because we primarily came out as financial education courses, workshops, etc. But we've shifted to earnings calls. That takes some time to kind of know, not just set expectations of the customers, but you have to maybe shift the team's focus. Yeah, so you're doing a little bit of it while trying to close out those projects, while focusing on where you want to be in terms of the recurring revenues. So that kind of takes you some time to do that transition. It's like turning the Titanic, right? It's gonna take it takes some time
That's
to do
exactly
that.
it.
So
Yeah. But I would have wanted to put it this way: we wouldn't be having this conversation if we launched one academy and we got we saw growth in revenue. So it would hide the fact that we're making this turn, right? But
yeah.
what really showed it up was the fact that we did not do that, and we are moving away from the projects and so on. So it's where we are. But what I'm happy about is that recurring revenues that we've been kind of focused on is going to start showing its face now. I would say come the first quarter of the next financial year, which starts September.
Okay. So you mentioned, the next question is surrounding your contracts. You mentioned you've been able to close or secure additional contracts. What they're asking here, because you had gone through in the prospectus a list of your current contracts, etc. Are the company contracts that are previously held that have not matured, because I know some of them had expiry dates, are those contracts still in good standing?
Yeah, in fact, gotten better. We extended a major one last year. We're extending a few others as well. So some contracts that have expired have we've managed to renew. So those are still in good standing, and we continue to grow. One of the things I'm very excited about is the work that we're doing in Bahamas, man. It's significant, and we last year, or this May, this June, the country was able to generate about 40,000 report cards digitally, get those sent to the parents. The minister can track everything on a dashboard down to how many desks and chairs in a school. And it's quite significant. And it begs the question why more countries are not going this direction or are not doing this. But that's an opportunity for us, and we're getting it done. But what we're doing there is quite significant, and we're very proud of the work. They just celebrated their 50th anniversary, and we're very proud of the work that we're doing there. We're also doing work with Jamaica. We're doing work with we're also we just signed a very good deal with a cybersecurity company. We've signed deals with I was in Barbados recently. We signed a Caribbean regional initiative with Jump Caribbean, which is to train
Yes,
and upskill
yes.
households in St. Lucia, Barbados, Grenada. I believe Bahamas is on that as well. So we've signed some significant stuff. So you'll be seeing those coming on stream very shortly. So and we need to do a better job announcing these deals when we get them. I feel like but again, it's not in our DNA, Jermaine. So, but we need to figure it out, right? It's not in
Yeah.
our DNA that we get a client to, so we get this client. However, I do believe that shareholders need to be kept informed as to how
Yeah.
we're
I
growing.
mean, that's why we're having this conversation, because I mean, I think it doesn't need to be for every single thing. I think if we have a regular cadence of communication, which we have actually had that discussion and agreement. So I think it's just a matter of consolidating the information. We have the opportunity to speak with yourself and other members of the team. We
Yep.
can start to have that, regular distribution of information.
Yeah, no, and that's a good deal. In fact, I'm very happy that we're now working together so that, for your community, and I know there are other communities as well. I'm always interested to speak, but I think this is a good thing we're doing to give you an insight, whether it be quarterly or whenever, to show you exactly and your community what we're doing, how we're doing it, and why is it significant.
Yeah, agreed. So you mentioned Jump Project just now. Can you give us some context? Because I saw it on LinkedIn, I believe. But
Yeah.
can you tell persons about that project?
Yeah, so the Jump Project is pretty much a partnership between One-on-One, Flow, Cable and Wireless Charitable Foundation out of Miami, and regional governments. And the agreement is for us to train and certify households in the respective countries, persons within these households, right? So we're targeting the mommy and the daddy who probably stay home, they want to get upskill, train, and so on. And the idea is that Flow provides a device, I provide training, access to my online content library, and the government provides payment. Now, how it works is basically this, right? The idea is that if more persons have access to devices and training, and they can get certified in higher order skills, then they can use this to get jobs. They can use this to access digital services, and then the livelihood of those persons are improved. Now, it's a pilot that we're running, and provided that it's successful, then it will be wide scale for every member or every citizen of that country, right, who satisfies the particular criteria. So it's a significant project. We're starting out, as I said, with Jamaica, Barbados, Grenada, St. Lucia. There's another country that we're doing as well, and we're working with the regional governments. It was launched with Prime Minister Mia Mottley, and she's a big believer in this. I met her, and she's doing a lot of fantastic work down there in Barbados. We're going to Grenada next, St. Lucia, and so on. So I have a team that is focused on that. Jermaine, and if this takes off in the way that we are doing, is what I said, right, Jermaine? I think there are some things that we're doing that once we do it right, it's gonna play a significant role going forward in generating recurring revenues for the company.
Yeah. Understood. All right. Thank you for that. The next question that I have here, just two more. So you mentioned, so we spoke about the company's last quarter. We spoke about where things were in terms of the prospectus and that shift. Is it okay to say, in terms of the projections you had for the year from the prospectus, are not going to be realized?
Yeah, I think we're going to fall short of the projections that we've laid out in the prospectus. That said, I do believe that there are things that were not laid out that we're going to do very well at. In my report, quarterly report, I tried to give some perspective as to what the revenue lines were projected at, and what we were doing, right? And again, when I'm writing the report, I always remember, man, I did promise that this is what we're going to do. I need to tell persons where we are, and I need to tell them where we're going. And so while we will fall a little short of or targeted revenues, I do believe that, and also profitability based on the growth in expenses that we've experienced, and the significant growth, by the way, Jermaine, in expenses. And by the way, these expenses are not things that I don't think we could have seen in advance. I do believe we could have looked at them. However, I think what has happened throughout the year is that we have seen a significant opportunity to build out the solution that we're putting in place now, and that brought about significant revenues. For example, the team in place that is supporting this entire solution, that is generating zero revenue at this point, is fully funded by the company to the tune of probably in excess of, I don't know, about $5 million per month. Over a 3-month period, that's $15 million. If you back that out and look at your profitability increase by $15 million, because there's no revenues that is going along with it, right? But you need that team in place to start doing the work, right? Going out, getting the thing, getting the stuff installed, getting all of that and so on. So, while the expenses has gone, it is for a good reason that we're looking at the future. So revenues are going to be below what we projected, not by much, but I do expect it to land there. Expenses is going to be above what we had projected, and profitability will be below what we had projected. What I will tell you though is this. What we've invested in and what we're investing in. I did announce earlier that we're invested roughly about $250 million. We've so far spent more than $100 million, and we're looking to spend significantly more in the upcoming months in this solution that we're launching. There's a lot of work going into that, Jeremy. I can't even tell you, it's unimaginable what we're doing. But you will see the fruits of that coming up. And I'm looking forward to what this will bring for the company. So it's for good reasons, those expenses, but obviously the revenues, we would have wanted to do more. Now, just to say that if you look at our revenues, the One Academy, if you were to, let's say, because remember now, we've delayed One Academy for 1 year. That was supposed to bring about 70 million. I need to look back at the prospectus, right? I usually know my numbers out there, but this is supposed to bring about $70 million. So, if you kind of offset that with, yes, we've had growth in other areas, again, we should end the year in a respectable position. But I'm just saying that,
So I was going to ask you, do you plan to end the year higher than last year, or you're going to be
higher?
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Again, it's growth, but it's not
what you had projected, but it's still growth.
Yeah, it's still growth.
I mean, and for the investments you've made, for what you've said, I think, that's I think the important thing is that you have been able to clearly articulate why, and you're setting an expectation as to how you'll be finishing out the year. So for those persons, for them to take that information and understand where you stand as a company, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah. All right, so I have just one more question that I wanted to get in from our community, then we can close out. Can you attribute the decline in revenues to the fact that face-to-face classes have resumed since the restrictions have ended, or do you think that doesn't have an impact on what you're doing?
No, because not really, but it may, but I don't believe so. And let me tell you why. Remember now, the reason why you see that decline in revenues is a shift from project-based revenues. A lot of those project-based revenues you earn because of the projects you took in COVID. A lot of those projects you took in COVID was directly related to the fact that schools were out, classes are at home or online, and there's the shift and so on. So even companies, you get project-based revenues from and so on. So yes, but here's what I would say to that. One-on-one does not earn significant revenues from students, nor do we earn significant revenues from parents. Not now. When we launch One Academy, we will. So our business was not significantly affected by students going back to school or staying at home, right? Because simply that's not how we earn revenues. Now, going forward with this solution, our company will be exposed to that, but we have mitigated that because you can learn in the classroom, you can learn at home, you can learn anywhere. So that's how we have mitigated against that. But to answer the question, it may have contributed, but I think what contributed to it is that we made a conscious decision that we're moving away from project-based revenues, focusing our resources on recurring revenues, building out the company, and we've been very intentional about that.
Okay. So I mean that what that sounds like, definitely you can't plan for a pandemic, but should there be a similar situation where persons can't come in, you're in that position where classes can resume and you have an opportunity to benefit from that.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to serving parents and students coming up, Jeremy. The platform, I like where we are. I like what we've done. I like what we've built. I like the features that we've built out. One of the things that in 2013, I tell people our business plan was to use AI to personalize learning. And at the time, my definition of AI was statistical inferences based on historical data. So, so it's kind of like a regression model where, you kind of draw a line and kind of see where you fall based on an input. So you give me an X, I give you a Y. That's how I saw AI. But now with all of these models that are not necessarily linear in nature and so on, and all the opportunities that exist, can you imagine now when we saw that mid-year? Remember when ChatGPT dropped? Yeah. Remember too that before ChatGPT dropped, one-on-one had a tool where you could actually interact with the prospectus via a chatbot. Remember too, and that was before ChatGPT. So before AI one-on-one was working on it. So it's a big kind of focus to infuse that into the One Academy platform. It's a big focus to have teachers having a role to play in the One Academy platform, for schools to have a play in the One Academy platform. And this is going to be our future that bring about those recurring revenues. In addition to our businesses, Jermaine, that we continue to earn from, and we want to grow that revenues. As I said, I've been on the trade missions. I've been to all of these countries. I've seen the opportunities that exist. We looked at Canada. We looked at many things, and we came back and we said, okay, this is what we're going to focus on now, tomorrow, and after.
Okay. So my final question, in terms of, so you mentioned, I think this may be a good way to close out. So you mentioned quite a bit your investment and focus on AI. You've mentioned the teacher availability solution. You've mentioned your, building up content capacity and being able to provide a space where you can kind of ramp up content development. Can you maybe sum up for persons, if somebody was being introduced to one-on-one for the first time right now, how would you articulate what you do, your vision, and just kind of have them understand what you do as a company?
No, for sure. One-on-one is a company that is focused on connecting people to knowledge, right? And we want to do that for our individuals in connecting them to their teacher, whether in the classroom or online. We want to do that for companies, connecting employees to training and training that will allow them to upskill themselves on the job using our online platform and content that we make available. But not only just the content, Jermaine, just the ability to know exactly what your skills are, what your strengths are, and be connected to courses that can help you to do even better. And to governments, right? Helping them to build out the education infrastructure for their countries that they can monitor and track learning and knowledge acquisition, because you cannot improve what you can't track. And so we're giving them the ability to track and monitor all of that, like we're doing in several countries now, and we will be doing in the future. So one-on-one continues to invest in the education infrastructure, Jermaine. I said this in the IPO and I'll say again. We have no interest whatsoever in simply being the providers of knowledge. We want to provide the platform and the infrastructure that connects people to knowledge. If you remember, the cover page of our prospectus says effectively, technology is that powers online learning. And we're very much focused on being the technological backbone. And once we are, then persons will have to use that to advance their e-learning interests. And once we do that right, obviously.
Great, thank you for that. So I'll allow you the opportunity to speak to your investors, right? So persons who are shareholders in the company, those who have been holding since IPO, who have bought into the vision that you painted in the prospectus. What would be your current message to your shareholders and investors who have been bought into the vision that was painted?
No, thank you very much, Jermaine. Let me just bring this camera right front and center, because I want you to see me and I want you to see me front and center. Guys, shareholders, whoever you are, whether you're a teacher, a regular investor, I don't know your background. What I can tell you is that, firstly, I'm very happy that you decided to invest in our company, our team, and our vision that we laid out, which is effectively to bring about an educational system that will ensure that we create people for tomorrow, that will empower and be empowered to take advantages of various opportunities. Thank you for joining us on this journey. It's been a year, almost a year, since you came on, since we announced that IPO, and we've done significant work in putting your money to work. And I say your money for a reason, because it is your money represented by a share now in our company. And what we've done, I believe, will bring about significant opportunities for the company, both in the medium and the long term. I ask that you continue to believe in what we're doing. Obviously, we have a duty to continue keeping you informed about what we're doing, and continue believing in that strategy that we had laid out, and continue to trusting our team. And thank you for that trust that you've given to us as we go ahead and try to achieve the strategy. So thank you, and looking forward to sharing more information. And look out for us come September, right? If you are an investor in one-on-one, you have a child in a school, you're a teacher, you're a principal, whoever you are, you're an investor in one-on-one, you'll be a very happy camper come September. Very, very happy camper.
Great. Thank you for that, Ricardo. So I think that's an excellent way to close out.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Ricardo, for this opportunity. I look forward to the next conversation. I'm expecting to meet, based on how we arrange this, I should be meeting other members of the team, hopefully engaging in different and new sides of the company. Maybe hopefully I'll get to speak to somebody from the teacher availability solution team, maybe persons from the different teams, to kind of see how things come together from a holistic perspective of the company. And I know that we'll be able to meet at strategic points, me and you, to talk about the perspective of maybe the company's performance, or other aspects that would be important to understand one-on-one from a complete perspective. So really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much. I look forward to our future conversations.
Thank you, Jermaine. Bye-bye.
Right.
Learning is the key to successful investing. And who doesn't want to invest in some way?
Here at L.E.A.R.N Grow Invest, we focus on financial education, all with the aim of sharing our knowledge on personal finance, investing, and building wealth. We do this on the foundation of our faith in God.
If a more holistic approach is what you need, check out our Grow Faith-based financial coaching program.
Find out more about us at learngrowinvestclub.com
and follow us on all social media platforms at L.E.A.R.N Grow Invest.